Hello, friends. What's up? We're in a new location. This is where my TV sits. This is my TV. But we are here because I am doing something that I am so excited for, which is that we are officially going to do my History of Miss I, presented by Simon's Entertainment. And I have my wand so that I can do pointing things. I'm literally so excited. Hi, I'm in a different outfit. It's a different location, I know, but we need to talk about the intro that just played. Bean made me that intro. Bean, you have a special shout out section later in the shout out section, but like, I love you so much. This was my birthday present from Bean this year, and I love it with all my heart and soul. I'm literally so happy about it, and I just want to say, like, shout out to Bean. You are the greatest person ever, and I don't deserve you. Okay, so here's the deal. I have been on an old girl group binge, let's call it, as of late. Like, it's been a time. I've been listening to a lot of them. I sat down one day and I listened to Miss A's entire catalog in one sitting, and I was like, damn, I love Miss A's music. It's so good. And then I decided we're doing a history of Miss A. Also, like, immediately after studying these notes, I saw a whole Twitter thread about how JYP is ass at promoting girl groups. Like, it was a whole thing. And I was like, wow. That's like the truest statement ever. JYP literally is incapable of promoting multiple girl groups at the same time. They struggle with it to a concerning extent, and that just fueled me even more. Now, here's the thing with this video, okay? This is going to be very similar to my 21 video, just because I was never a Miss A fan while they were active. They, not disbanded, but they went inactive. Like, I got into them right after their last mini album came out, so I was never here for the reign of Miss A. But I obviously knew who they were. Like, they're Miss A, and also Suzy is Suzy, so, like, we knew about Miss A. But, as a result, that means this is going to be very historically based, okay? Like, I had to do a lot of research in the making of this video. Like, I can't sit here and tell you, oh, I remember X, Y, and Z, because I don't remember X, Y, and Z. I wasn't here for X, Y, and Z. I had to crawl through the depths of Twitter for this video. I want credit for that. Do you know how scary it is to crawl through the depths of Twitter? Twitter is a scary place. I wouldn't recommend it. But I did a lot of research. I had a lot of fun. So it's going to be fun. Don't worry. Also, I have no physical props other than this slideshow that I made you. This is a whole slideshow. Please get ready. But I have no physical props because Miss A merch is expensive. No joke. I wanted a copy of Colors for like 5 years now. The cheapest I can find is $50+. Like, I can't bring myself to do it. So there's no physical props aside from the fact that I will be giving you an entire slideshow presentation. Now let's have shout out time. Please appreciate my shout out slide. Please appreciate the Bean artwork that I made for my future. Shout out to Bean. I had so much fun making this video. That's not the point, but this slideshow, time of my life. Anyway, first shout out, Miss Smoky Glow. She is AWOL at this point. She's posted like 4 videos saying she's coming back, and then never came back after said videos. Like, I assume, I hope she's like okay, but like, I assume she's not really coming back to YouTube ever. But she used to make these videos called Evolution of, and I loved them. I still love them, honestly. Like, I'm sure if I put on one of them right now, I'd enjoy myself, but she used to make them. I used to love them. They are the inspiration for all of my history of, so I'm going to put her channel and her Evolution of playlist in the description. Next is the aforementioned Bean shout out. I would like to stress, I did get clearance to use this emoji by Bean. I sent it to her and I was like, what do you think? And she's like, it feels like me. So this is Bean. This is the new embodiment of Bean. And I want to give a shout out to Bean because A, she is literally the reason I still have a channel. Like, I would not still be doing this if not for Bean. So we love Bean for that. And Bean, even though I will not see you for an additional 5 years, I adore you. You're the best person ever, and I love you. Lastly, of course, we must give a shout out to the bestie, who's, for the record, this entire slideshow, the bestie's idea. The bestie came over to watch the Grammys, and she was like, you know what would be fun? If you made your history of a slideshow, a la early era Tumblr. And I was like, brilliant. 10 out of 10. Absolutely. And then I made this the next day. But either way, this was her idea. Plus, she puts up with me to no end. I'm dragging her to a lot of concerts this year, so that's also a thing. But we love the bestie. Shout out to the bestie. Thank you for being a genius queen. Last thing before we really get started is, of course, disclaimer time. And we have a couple of disclaimers to go through. They're not scary, they're not that bad, but we just gotta run through them really quick. First, I am not doing every single Miss A activity. Absolutely not. Suji's filmography alone would be like an hour. And I don't have the patience for that. I also don't care enough about her filmography to spend an hour going through it. So we're not doing every group activity. We're not doing every solo activity. I never do when I make these videos. And frankly, I feel like if I did, they'd be way too long and they'd be way too boring. Secondly, I'm only covering the active years of Miss A. Now, I did this when I did 21, but it's similar in that aspect. These two videos are actually going to be very similar in a lot of ways, but basically, obviously the members of Miss A did not just like disappear from the face of the earth following the end of Miss A. Like, they're still active, but we're only going to cover the active years of Miss A because this is the history of Miss A, and I feel like it would get a little out of hand if we did it all the way through the modern day. So we're only covering active years, which is 2010 to 2017. Lastly, just to cover my bases, opinions. Opinions at various points. Okay, like, I'm going to talk about their songs, I'm going to say whether I liked it, I'm going to talk about whether I think a comeback did well or not. These are all opinions. You can disagree with all of them, and that's totally fine. Okay, I think that covers everything. So, let's go meet the members. Okay, for those who are new here, we have to meet the members. Like, what is Miss A if there are no members? So we're meeting the members, and as always, to pretend we're unbiased, we're going to go in age order, which means number 1, we have Miss Wang Feifei. Now, Faye was born on April 27th, 1987. She's an old girly, at least by like a modern K-pop standard. She debuted when she was 23. How scandalous. But either way, she was born in April, and she doesn't have a ton of pre-debut lore to really cover. Her main thing was just that she appeared on a dancing competition back in 2009. During her time with Miss A, however, Faye was not a dancer. She was, in fact, a singer. She was the main vocal of Miss A. Some Faye facts, if you will. First, she apparently used to collect body mists. I don't know why I felt the need to include this, but I did think it was intriguing, because, like, that's just not something a lot of people, I feel like, do nowadays, so there's that. But more importantly, she's apparently, like, a slay cook, like, an incredibly slay cook. She even went, this is a picture from MasterChef Korea, she went on MasterChef Korea, and she got 2nd place, so, like, she kind of outsold. Next member is the 2nd Chinese member. I forgot to mention, Faye is from China. But our other Chinese member is Meng Jia, aka, as we will be referring to her going forward, Jia. Jia was born on February 3rd, 1989, meaning that as of me filming this video, her birthday was like a week ago. So happy birthday. I love that for her. She's 35, what a queen, we love to see it. But while she was with Miss A, she would be the group's lead dancer, main rapper, and sub-vocal. As for her fun facts, she's apparently very flexible. So good for her. That's not me at all. Like, I am not flexible. Not in any way. Do not try and make me do any contortioning. I will just be in pain. But we love to see that she can. On top of that, she used to host alongside Faye. She would host like a MBC radio, which was like their Chinese radio, I presume. I don't know. I didn't like find any lore about the radio show really, but she used to host a radio show. She did it with Faye, and she did it with Domi from Super Junior. On to the Korean members. And first up, we have Miss Lee Min-young, or she will be known henceforth, and you probably know her better, Min. Min was born on June 21st, 1991, and served as the group's main dancer, lead rapper, and lead vocal. We love a versatile queen. Min also has some insane pre-debut lore I did not know about prior to making this video. Apparently between 2007 and 2008, she released 3 solo singles, which were produced by Lil Jon. Like Mr. Turn Down for What Lil Jon, that's insane to me. Now for her fun facts. She was on the Korean version of Sesame Street as a kid. She also has performed on Broadway. This is her when she was at Broadway. She's been on Broadway, we love to see that. But also, she's like best friends with Hyoyeon from Girls' Generation, and I think it's so cute because they were best friends since they were like 13, and they went to dance school together, and I find that adorable. Last but not least, we have the most famous member of this group, the one we all know about. That's Bae Suji, aka Suji. She's her. Suji was born on October 10th, 1994. And in addition to being a prolific actor, she is also the group's lead vocal, sub-rapper, visual, face of the group, and maknae. Someone get her a break. Suji fun facts include the fact that she is a registered organ donor. We love to see that. We love someone who gives back to the community via their organs. She has also been cast directly after appearing on Superstar K back in 2009, which I didn't know she went on. No one informed me of this. No one informed me of so many things. I learned so many things making this video, but yeah, she went on Superstar K back in 2009, and that's how she got cast. Also, story time. This is going to be relevant to none of you, but I'm telling it anyway. Basically, the song Attraction by Bumkey, okay? Back on the brand new remix of Attraction, there's a line from Sang-e that goes, "Hush like Suji, Miss A Suji, Akinda Suji." I think about this line all the time. You don't understand. This line has lived in my head rent-free since like 2015. I think about it quite literally whenever I think about Suji. Like, it literally has never left my brain, and I felt the need to share that. I will say, I don't know if this makes it more or less weird. I found the performance of this song where the line is from, and Sani's the one who raps the line. I should have mentioned that. It's a Sani line. And Sani says it to Suji, like he's looking at her, he is speaking directly to her. I don't know if that makes it more or less creepy, but like, it is a thing that I learned. Okay, members are done for now. We're gonna come back. Like, I'm gonna do a little where are they now section when we get to the end. But for now, we're done with the members, and we're gonna get started on the timeline. Okay. Is pre-debut lore time, hence the pre-debut lore slide. There's a lot of slides, okay? Like, I hope you understand that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this slideshow, and I love it so much. Do not be mean to this slideshow. Like, it is the light of my life. Anyway, the pre-debut lore we have to discuss. So prior to debuting, this is actually known as the Chinese Wonder Girls. They had a very different lineup back in these days. For starters, you can see there's 5 of them. So that right there is different, but also the members were not the same. They were just different. They were the Chinese Wonder Girls. Then, March 2010, they got reformed into a trio, which had all the members of Miss A except for Min. Back in their trio days, they released the song Love Again as a Samsung ad. That was before they debuted, but they had a Samsung ad. Good for them. And then Min joined the group, giving us the Miss A we know and love today. And with that, we shall jump into the official debut era of Miss A. So, July 1st, 2010, we have Bad But Good era. Bad But Good is the debut single by Miss A. It is a single album, and it was led by the monster of a hit that was Bad Girl, Good Girl. Also, before we jump into the actual song and the album, I want to quickly note, Miss A technically debuted under AQ Entertainment, which was like a sub-label of JYP. I don't know why. At some point, AQ shut down and Miss A moved to JYP. Like, it wasn't really a thing. They were always a JYP group, but they were technically not a JYP group. Okay, back to Miss A's debut. The album, Bad But Girl, it did moderately well. It sold around 20,000 copies, peaked at number 6 on the charts. It did fine for a girl group in 2010, but it was no, like, massive seller. Although, spoilers, no Miss A album is, like, massive sellers. The same, however, cannot be said for the title track. Okay, like, Bad Girl, Good Girl, massively successful, and I think the best way to show you this is to read you some of the accomplishments of this song, okay? Firstly, the song spent 4 weeks at number 1 on both the Melon and Gaon charts, making it, at the time, the song with the most weeks at number 1 on the Gaon charts. Granted, the Gaon charts were 7 months old at this point, but even so, very impressive. They also, more impressively, set a record for the most weeks at number 1 by a girl group song that would not be broken until Brolin in 2021. Additionally, the song topped yearly charts, like number 1 on both the year-end Melon and Gaon charts. It also got nominated for Song of the Year at the Melon Music Awards and won the Song of the Year at the Maz. The song also did numbers on YouTube, okay? It has 88 million views on YouTube. I know, like, you might look at that number and be like, okay, so what? Like, there's Everglow songs with more views than that, and Everglow's no massive girl group. You don't understand. For 2010, 88 million views is so many. Like, it is still to this day one of the most viewed K-pop music videos of 2010. Musically speaking, meanwhile, this song's a classic to be sure. Like, absolute icon of a generation. It also was pretty unique at the time. It still had some elements of the bubblegum and cute pop songs that were more common amongst girl groups in 2010. But it also had other elements that I can almost say were like a precursor to Girl Crush, like the Girl Crush we see today. It was very 21-esque in its ways. Also, because he's a fucking scumbag, we're gonna talk about JYP the human being a weirdo for a minute. So, when Miss A debuted, Suji, the youngest member, was 15 years old, okay? 15. And the choreo for the song was a lot. Like, it was weird. If you thought the accusations of JYP being freaky with minors began with Twice, you are sorely mistaken. I will say, I couldn't actually find a lot from 2010 talking about it, probably because it was all in Korean. But either way, I couldn't find a lot. I could have had the bestie look. She speaks Korean really well. But I couldn't find anything. In the aftermath, I've seen a lot of tweets. Like, when I was digging into the depths of Twitter, I did find a couple tweets being like, why is no one talking about the fact that Suji was 15, basically fucking the ground and, like, acting like one would consider, like, a stereotypical, like, slutty girl in high school? Like, it was weird. It was weirdo behavior. JYP is a weirdo and he needs to be jailed. Moving on from JYP being gross and weird, we've now entered Step Up era. So on September 26th, Miss A would release Step Up, their second single album, along with its title track Breathe, and also, I forgot to mention this, the legs. I don't know if you can really tell. It's a dark image. I should have shown this off in a different one. But Miss A's thing for a while was legs. I would like to remind you, Suji is 15 years old at this point. JYP, let's chat. Anyway, this comeback was a bit of a disappointment in comparison to their first release, which isn't a surprise, but either way, the album sold nowhere near as well. It only sold around 10,000 copies. It did peak just as high. It peaked at number 6, so good for her, but the sales, much lower. Breathe, meanwhile, the title track, was nowhere near a flop. Like, it did fine, but, like, it peaked at number 2. Not bad. But as a follow-up to Bad Girl, Good Girl, that is a disappointment. It didn't help that Breathe also saw, like, a massive shift in sound for the group. Like, Bad Girl, Good Girl was absolutely a pop song. It had the cutesy elements to it, but Breathe took that cutesiness and it dialed it up to 11. Like, the music video, it was bright, it was colorful, it was kid-focused, okay? Like, the only way to describe it, it was like, it was for babies, basically. It's like, you have those shows that are for babies. Breathe, very reminiscent of that. And while it's not a bad song, I personally don't like it. Like, it's not a bad song. It was definitely not what people wanted as a follow-up to Bad Girl, Good Girl. Guys, it's solo time. Okay, we have solo promotions to discuss. First, Suji. Suji became the host of Music Core in October. She'd done a one-off episode a couple months earlier, but now she was the official host, and she'd do it for around a year. However, this is not just a Suji section. Don't get used to it. Most of the solo promotions will be for Suji. But Suji was not the only one this time. Min joined the cast of Oh My School, and she would do that until May of 2011. Group-wide, though, Miss A didn't do a ton for the rest of the year, so we're just going to jump ahead to our first retrospective. Hello, friends! Welcome to the retrospective corner for this video. I know this is my normal corner. Like, if you've watched pretty much any of my other videos, you've seen this corner extensively. I'm not filming in here for most of this video, so this isn't the retrospective corner, because otherwise I have to move shit around. It's a lot. So we're using my normal corner. But either way, for those new here, I like, whenever I do my history ads, I like to end each year with just like a little retrospective, a little look back on the year, a little summary. I think it's really fun, and it's a really nice way to wrap up the year. And 2010 was a wild year for Miss A, okay? Like, their debut single is literally one of the most successful in the history of K-pop. Like, full stop, period. I was trying to think the other day of, like, a debut single that can truly compare to the levels of success seen by Bad Girl, Good Girl. I came up with 2 hypothetical answers, okay? First, 11. Just a pretty obvious one. 11. Massively successful debut single. The other one I thought about, not Attention. I don't think Attention was big enough. Hype Boy, if it is considered a debut single, I think Hype Boy is on the level, but like, we are literally talking the upper echelons of hit singles, okay? Like, not even just your debut song went number 1. It's like, your debut song was one of the biggest hits of the entire year. Like, I can pull my Bad Girl, Good Girl slide back up, okay? Like, that song did numbers. It was, at the time of its release, the most successful girl group single in the history of the Gaon charts. Okay, granted, yes, the Gaon charts was 6 months old when it came out, but even so, like, it was the most successful song in the charts history. Okay, like, that's not a minor feat. And while, yes, its follow-up, Breathe, didn't do quite as well, it still was nowhere near a flop. Basically, within just months of their debut, Miss A had established themselves as a top girl group and were outselling the more established girl groups that had comebacks around the same time as them. And with that, let us return to the timeline for the first full year of Miss A. Hi, welcome back. It's 2011 time, and Miss A as a group would actually start 2011 off on a hiatus because it is already actor Suji time. We didn't even make it a year. Starting in January, Suji, she's over there, Suji, she would star in Dream High, the wildly successful drama. She played Go Hyemi, and to be fair, the other members did appear. They appeared as a flash mob in one of the episodes of the show. I didn't watch the show, but they appeared in one of the episodes, and good for them. Plus, critically acclaimed show. Like, people loved this show. Suji would also release 2 OSTs for the show, and I just want to get this out of the way right now. Okay, we're gonna pause. Suji, prolific actor. Suji had the big brain idea. Like, this was a brilliant move. She constantly put out OSTs for the shows she was in. and she did it all the time. Now, because she's a prolific actor, Suji has a ton of OSTs. Like, to be clear, like, she has a ton of OSTs, and they all did, like, decently well. I don't think there were any that were, like, monumental hit singles, but they all did pretty well. Like, her OSTs have racked up a grand total of, like, millions of downloads, to be sure, but I'm not going to talk about all of them, because that's exhausting, that's tiresome, it's not going to happen. If one does particularly well, I might bring it up, but do not get your hopes up. Similarly, Suji's won a ton of acting awards. Like, she is a critically acclaimed actress. I will not be bringing them up either. Like, not all of them, at least. I might bring up one or two. But, because while I do think that Suji's popularity is important for this grand scheme of the popularity of Miss A, I don't think Miss A would have managed to stay as big as they were if not for Suji being such a popular actress. We could also make the argument they would have, but either way, I do think her popularity is important, but I do not want it to become the focus of this video. This is not a history of Suji, this is a history of Miss A. I will not be bringing up all her acting gigs, I will not be bringing up all her awards, I will not be bringing up all her OSTs. I will bring them up if they are relevant, but they will not be brought up every single time they happen, okay? Jumping ahead of it, in May, Miss A released Love Alone, which was a song for skater Yuna Kim. Can I just say, on an unrelated note, I really want to call her a skatress. I feel like that sounds so much better than just skater. I understand that, like, actresses... I remember we had a drama teacher. I loved my drama teacher. But when I was, like, 8 years old, we had a drama teacher. And she was also the art teacher. But our drama teacher was like, I don't like being called an actress. I want to be called an actor because actress... It was a whole gender thing. But I feel like the name skatress. Like, you have actor, actress, skater, skatress. We should bring back skatress. Anyway, the song also served as a pre-release for their then upcoming first studio album. The song did decently well. It peaked at number 6 on the Gaon charts. It picked up around 1 million downloads. And I know nowadays 1 million downloads sounds like a lot. 2011 was a different time. It was a different breed. 2011, 1 million downloads. Like, people got that in a week. Musically speaking, though, this actually sounds a bit like a 21 song. I could be crazy. It's been known to happen. But this reminds me a lot of, like, early 21. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a throwaway from their 2NE1 album. Also, I feel the need to mention, I tried to find a clip of her skating to this song to put in this slideshow. I couldn't. Could not be done. I did, however, spend minimum like 20 minutes just watching her skate. She is too talented. Who let her be this talented? Anyway, I love Yuna Kim. I'm a skating loser. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that. I think it's so fun to watch people skate. I got weirdly into it at the Olympics a couple years ago, and I've never been the same since. But either way, she's a queen. We stand. Now, eagle-eyed listeners will have just noticed that I mentioned an upcoming album that we're going to talk about. It was A-Class. We've now entered A-Class era. You can now see the legs better as well. But we've entered A-Class era. A-Class was the group's first studio album. It came out that July and had all their previously released songs, like the stuff on their first 2 singles, as well as some new songs, as well as the lead single, Goodbye Baby. As always, we're going to start with the album. The album has the very important distinction of being Miss A's best-selling album. It sold over 36,000 copies and is, to this day, the best-selling Miss A album. I know, again, 36,000 is not a lot. Even by, like, 2011 standards, it wasn't that much. But Miss A was never a strong seller in terms of their physicals, so we have to congratulate them where we can. Ironically enough, though, this is also Miss A's lowest charting album. It only peaked at number 9 on the weekly Gaon charts, in spite of being their best-selling album. This happens weirdly often. I've noticed this in my time. Like, an album will be a group's best-selling album, and it'll also be their lowest peaking. It's weird. But we've already established Miss A's strong suit was not physicals, it was their digital. So let's go talk about the title track, Goodbye Baby. Goodbye Baby would be another huge hit for the group, okay? It topped charts. It spent 2 weeks at number 1 on the Gaon charts and a week at number 1 on the Melon charts and racked up millions of downloads. 3.5 million to be specific, and closed out the year as the 3rd highest selling single of 2011. As for the song itself, like, musically speaking, it's good. I really like it. It took the cutesiness that Breathe had and it threw it out the window. This song is like girl power-esque. It's a banger. It's an icon. We love this song. I hope you didn't forget that Miss A used to be the Chinese Wonder Girls, because it's Chinatown. Miss A would go on to release their first Chinese album, which was just their first album in China. It had the Chinese version of all their past singles. Also, I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention this. That's on me. All the members of Miss A speak Chinese. I should have mentioned that, but yeah, they do. Meanwhile, that same month, it's solo time, because Min made her acting debut. She appeared in a movie. Suji would also stop hosting Music Core around this time. Miss A was busy at the end of the year, okay? But Suji stopped hosting Music Core, but quickly joined another show. She joined the cast of Invisible Youth, too. But other than that, the rest of 2011 is standard year-end stuff that I never talk about because it's boring. So we're going to jump it back to the retrospective corner. Okay, welcome back. And here's the thing with me talking about 2011. I feel like 2011 is a complex year because on the one hand, Miss A was undeniably thriving. They had multiple top tens and one of the biggest hits of the entire year. However, I can't help but compare it to 2010, where they undeniably did better. Like, 2011 was a phenomenal year. Any group would kill to have a year like Miss A did in 2011. But it was still a decline from what they'd done in 2010. This isn't like a weird thing. This is true with a lot of groups where they'll have like their big year and then the following year they just don't do as much. It's like comparing Girls' Generation in 2011 versus 2010, comparing 21 in like 2012 versus 2011. It's not weird, but it is still a thing. But either way, they did well in 2011. Let's go see how they do in 2012. Welcome to 2012. We made it to 2012. Are we proud of ourselves? I'm proud of myself, frankly, but either way. Miss A started off the year pretty quickly by releasing their Touch album. It's not Touch Era. The album had a title track of the same name and came out in February. The album quickly became Miss A's highest charting album. It peaked at number 2 on the charts. Spoilers, they never got a number 1 album, but it did peak at number 2, which is pretty good, and sold around 20,000 copies, so not huge numbers, but we shouldn't expect anything different at this point. Now let's talk about Touch, the song, the title track, because this was another hit for Miss A. Touch only peaked at number 2 on the Gaon charts, but it topped the Melon charts. It peaked at number 1, beating out Big Bang for the top spot, and also racked up over 2.7 million downloads. Touch is also Miss A's most awarded song on music shows. Miss A, like with the album sales, they were never big on music shows, in spite of having massive hits to their name. Touch is the exception. Touch got 5 wins, which is, for the rest of their career, their most awarded song. As for YouTube, Touch was actually a bit of a flop. The music video only has 23 million views, which is a lot, to be fair, but also, like, in comparison, it is, as of this point, their lowest viewed music video, and spoilers for the future, it is to this day their lowest viewed music video, at least for their main titles. Personally, though, I'm kind of okay with the floppage, if we're being honest. Like, this song, it's not that it's a bad song, but it doesn't hit in the same way that other Miss A singles do for me. Like, this one feels like a weird mix of Sistar and FX singles that came out around the same time. Like, it was a weird one. Miss A would also release a Chinese version of this album because it went viral in China, and it did allow them to continue the technically still their trend of being the Chinese Wonder Girls. Miss A would actually go on a hiatus following Touch promotions, but we do have some solo stuff to cover, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's literally all Suzy lore. First, she made her film debut in Architecture 101. This film was a massive success. It was really popular, so good for her. After that, she featured on her label Meet JJ Project's debut album. She was on one of the songs, so they get to be here. Then, in June, she was on the show Big. She won a KBS Popularity Award for her performance. She played a character, I don't know. She was on the show and she won an award. After that, however, we do actually have, like, a real hiatus, one could say. Like, even Suji wasn't really doing anything I feel like mentioning, so we're gonna jump ahead a few months. Okay, on October 8th, Miss A announced Independent Woman Part 3 Era, aka their second mini album. And this album came out the following week. They were like, you have 1 week to prepare. But more importantly, I don't know why this is called Part 3. You see that? The Part 3 part of Part 3. I don't know why it's called Part 3. This is their 5th physical release. It is not their 3rd. They have nothing called Independent Woman prior to this. I have no idea. I'm dumb. I don't know why I didn't think of this before. I'm pretty sure it's just a Destiny's Child reference. They have Independent Woman Parts 1 and 2. I assume that's why this is Part 3. I don't know why I never got that before this moment. Like, I love that song by Destiny's Child, and we're not going to talk about it. Also, Simon wants to complain. Okay, it's Simon complaining time. Miss A really said, you have 1 week. We just put out a number 1 song. You have 1 week to prepare for our next comeback. And that's it. And nowadays, groups will be like, you have 2 months. We're coming back in 2 months. Get ready. Like, insanity. I appreciate having more than a week's warning, but I think the modern day we've gone way too far with it. Like, I do not need to be informed in December that you're coming back in February. Maybe let me know in like mid-January. Like, 2 weeks notice feels normal. But let's actually talk about the comeback now, okay? The album sold around 15,000 copies. It peaked at number 4. It's no groundbreaking thing, but for Miss A, it did pretty well. The single, I Don't Need a Man, was actually a bit of a decline for the group. Like, I want to stress, it was still absolutely a hit, but it didn't do as well. It peaked at number 3 on the Gaon charts, their lowest, peaking the main title yet. It also picked up around 1.7 million downloads, so a bit of a decline there too. However, it was an improvement in YouTube views. It got more than 50 million views, more than double what the last music video had gotten, so we are still seeing some progress, so yay for that. Musically speaking, I Don't Need a Man is actually a bit of a weird song for me to nail down because it has elements of songs I don't like. It feels safer, like Touch did. It also feels more basic, like Breathe did, both of which are my two least favorite Miss A titles. But at the same time, this one I really like. I think it's just that it's a slightly more complex pop song, and apparently that's all I need. Quick note, in November, Suji was featured in a B1A4 song. She was featured as the opening narration in the song I Won't Do Bad Things, and I bring this up entirely to talk about B1A4. B1A4 has the best discography, or one of the best discographies, in K-pop. You need to listen to it. People nowadays don't listen to B1A4, and it makes me so sad because you are intentionally missing out. Like, they have the best catalog ever. You should listen to it. Rant aside, that's all I have to tell you about 2012. So we're gonna head back to the retrospective corner. Welcome back. So, 2012. 2012 was an interesting year because, for starters, they did well. Like, undeniably, Miss A did well. Multiple hit singles, their most awarded song on music shows, tens of millions of views on YouTube, which was numbers most groups were not getting at the time. They did great. However, 2012 is also the perfect year for me to talk about two very specific issues that are very common when we run through the history of Miss A. So I want to go do that for a minute. Welcome to the corner. I've given this corner many names over the years of me making these videos, and I don't really have a name for this one. I don't have like a fun name that starts with a C. So today we're just calling it the corner, and we're just going to jump right into the issues that one can see when discussing Miss A in 2012. First issue, the lack of comebacks. Now, to be clear, this is not a Miss A exclusive issue. This is true with a surprising amount of girl groups actually who debuted in around the same time as Miss A. A lot of them would only have one or two comebacks a year. But I don't think that gives Miss A an excuse. I don't think that gives them an out. And you can raise your hand and you can be like, well, JYP knew, like, Miss A was already popular. They didn't need to have multiple comebacks each year. And I'm going to explain to you why you're wrong about that. Because JYP is, in fact, insane. First, some comparisons. Let's start with Miss A's most recently debuted label mates. Well, recently in comparison to Miss A. AKA, we're going to talk about the twos, 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. In 2009, 2 p.m. and 2010, 2 a.m., each one put out 3 singles. These singles were huge hits, okay? Like, multiple went #1, all of them peaked in the top 10, like, they had hits on hits on hits, and yet they still kept putting out more. A better and more obvious comparison is Twice. Twice in 2017 put out 4 albums. Yes, 2 of them were repackages, but what's stopping Miss A from putting out a repackage? Nothing, so it's not a good excuse. Twice in 2017, in spite of being the biggest girl group at the time, like undeniably were #1, they still put out 4 albums that year. Nothing was stopping JYP from giving Miss A more than 1 comeback for the majority of their career. For the other issue, we're going to do some compare and contrast, mostly just comparing. Astro. Diehard Astro stan. My first history of was for Astro. I've been an Astro stan since before they debuted, okay? As a longtime Astro stan, I can tell you, early Astro solo promotions, there was a very clear discrepancy between promotions that went to Anu and promotions that went to people who weren't named Anu. AKA, Anu got literally almost all of the solo promotions for the vast majority of Astro's career. Similarly, Miss A, it was not weird for Miss A to go on hiatus for, say, 2 months because Suji had a solo promotion. Suji had a drama to film. Suji had a movie to film. Suji had a drama to promote. Suji's solo acting career, which was very successful, kept Miss A at bay from a lot of potential opportunities that they could have had, like, say, a tour. And to be clear, Suji was doing numbers in the acting sphere. She was winning awards as an actress. She was a full-fledged, like, incredibly popular actress in her own right. Not just as a member of Miss A, she was popular on her own. But the issue is, a lot of groups might use these extended gaps, especially if it's early in their career. They might use these gaps to say, have a subunit, do some other solo promotions, and if it's later in their career, maybe have a solo album. I don't know, like, there were so many options of things that Miss A could have been doing, even without Suji. Like, Astro was still promoting all the time, in spite of Anu's acting career, but the difference is Miss A seemed fine, or at least, I should say, JYP seemed fine, making Miss A go on hiatus and just not do anything just so Suji could go film another drama. I'm not trying to frame this as a good thing or a bad thing, to be clear. Like, this is a thing, obviously. Like, I can't just ignore it, and I do want to point it out because I do think it is important, and it is a thing literally for Miss A's entire career. But now that we have that out of the way, we can return to the timeline. Hi, welcome back. Now, 2013 is a notable year for Miss A because it starts off with a massive hiatus. If you look at Miss A's Wikipedia page, yes, I use Wikipedia as a source. It is not my only source, but I use it as a source. Don't come for me. But if you look at their Wikipedia page, this entire section starts in October with their comeback for the year, which for the record has the wrong date at Wikipedia. This is why you shouldn't use Wikipedia as your only source. That album came out in November, not October. But either way, they basically did nothing as a group for the first sizable amount of the year. However, that doesn't mean nothing happened. We do have solo time, and for once, it's not all Suji lore. First, Faye, she's over here. Faye would join the MasterChef career. We talked about this earlier. She was the runner-up. It finished in April. She also joined Dancing with the Stars, the third season to be specific. That's where this image is from. And she won. Good for her. She won the show. Suji, in the meantime, started another drama. She was in Goof Family Book. It won a bunch of awards. It ran until mid-June. I haven't seen it, but that's all I got for you. However, aside from these brief solo things, it seems like Miss A was actually taking a pretty substantial break. Like, they didn't really do anything after June. I think they just took some time off, which they deserve. They've been busy, but we're going to fast forward to the aforementioned November comeback. So, in early November, Miss A released Hush. This is Hush. This is the Hush album cover. But Miss A released Hush, their second studio album. Now, the album did contain a lot of older songs from their past couple of minis, but it also contained 7 new songs, including a title track of the same name. The album's sales were nothing groundbreaking. It sold another 15,000 copies, peaked at number 2, so pretty good for Miss A, but again, nothing that crazy. Also, fun fact that I think is fun at least, the only Miss A albums to peak at number 2 are Hush and Touch, which are also the only albums that share the same name as the title track. Do I think it's related? Yes. Like, just theoretically, I could see it, but I don't know. I do think it's interesting, though, that, like, the only albums by Miss A that made it to number 2, their 2 highest charting albums, are the ones that have the same name as the title track. But speaking of the single, let's get into it, okay? Hush, 2 things. 1, Hush is my favorite Miss A title. Spoilers for the rest of the video. Hush is my favorite Miss A title. I love this song so much. It is also their worst performing single. It peaked at number 5 on the Gaon charts, substantially a drop, aka their prior lowest peaking single was at number 3. Number 3 to 5, bit of a drop. It also only sold 1 million downloads, substantially less than past songs. Now, to be fair, part of the reason it peaked so low in particular is because this came out the same week as the Infinity Challenge album, which claimed 8 spots in the top 10. So that was a factor. And in the following week, there were major comebacks by groups like Davichi and Hagak. So there's a reason why it peaked low. Like, I logically understand, and given the situation, it did really well. But it is also still their lowest peaking single. The music, however, like, musically, this song, iconic, okay? Like, this, again, favorite Miss A title. It took the girl boss nature of songs like Goodbye Baby and Dance Pop, and it fused it, and it works so perfectly. Also, we're back here. Yes, we are. I want to note, this song's vibes were, if you ask me, a lot sexier than anything Miss A had previously put out. It is also notably the first comeback Miss A had where Suji was 18. Do I think these two things are related? No. No, I do not, because JYP is a fucking scumbag and has made it clear he's fine sexualizing children, so no, I do not think it's related, but I do think it's interesting. Closing out the year, we not only have solo promotions, we have Chinese solo promotions. Faye and Tia, as I previously mentioned, hosted a radio show together. That's what this is. They started hosting the radio show. The first couple of episodes came out in November of this year, but they really started hosting it in March the following year, and it ran until March of 2015. But that's really all I got for 2013, so it's retrospective time. Honestly, I have so little to say about 2013. Like, yeah, Miss A was doing Miss A things. They were being Miss A, but I really don't have much to say. Like, we got expanded solo promotions, and they're not just all for Suji, so that's fun. But aside from that, I have nothing to say. So I've decided we're going to use this time for just a little intermission moment, okay? Okay, we're back in the corner. Here's what I want to do here. So, as I've made this video, I've learned a lot about Miss A. Like, I've learned some insane Miss A lore, and I'm like 99% sure that if I try and tell any of it to the bestie, she's gonna start throwing things at me or straight up block my phone number because she's tired of me, which is fair. So, because I'm making this video, I've decided we're gonna sit down right here and I'm gonna tell you some of the wildest Miss A facts that I just didn't get the chance to work into this video. Number one, in spite of being arguably one of the top girl groups for the vast majority of their career, Miss A never had a solo concert. Miss A never had a solo show. Like, you know how groups will just be like, yeah, we have our solo concert in Seoul, we're doing things. Miss A never did that. Miss A never had a solo concert. Well, let me rephrase. They never had a solo concert in Korea. They had some JYP shows, they had some showcases, but in terms of like an official concert in Seoul, never happened. Number two, Miss A never moved into Japan. They moved into China a couple times, but barely. But the Japanese route was not one they took. And to be fair, Wonder Girls also didn't do a ton in Japan. They have some Japanese releases, but not many. But it's just weird when you compare it to a group like 2PM, who debuted just before Miss A and was wilding in Japan. Like, it's just weird that that's a route JYP never thought to even take. Number three, this is more of a fun one, okay? Apparently, back in 2015, there was a rumor going around that Miss A, specifically the non-Suji members of Miss A, were bullying Suji. I can find no evidence of this. The closest thing I could find to proof was just that Suji was not in one of the members' birthday selfies. I think it was Gia's birthday selfie. But, like, that's it. That's it. I think it's really funny, and that's it. These last three, very charting lore-ish. Just be aware of that first. With 4 weeks at number one, Miss A's debut single has the most weeks at number one on the Melon charts for any debut song, going back 20 years, which I just think is fun. Still on the topic of their debut, Miss A's debut single is the only debut single ever to win Song of the Year at the Mamas. So that's fun. Number six, last one, more weird charting lore. Miss A is, I'm like 99% sure, the only group whose debut single and disbandment single, aka their first and last singles, both went number one on the Melon charts. I just think that's interesting. Like, again, I'm weird. I love charting lore. I think it's fascinating, but like, they're the only ones, and I think that's fun. Anyway, that's all I got for this little intermission. Just, you know, me being insane, me being a lunatic, me sharing the weird shit I've learned. And with that, we're gonna head back to the timeline. Welcome back. I hope you had fun. And now it's time for 2014. And 2014 is notable because it is literally the emptiest year of Miss A's actual active time, like when they were actively promoting as a group. Basically nothing happened. It's almost entirely solo promotions. Also, just to get it out of the way here, because I'll probably forget otherwise, Faye and Gia are hosting their radio show for this entire year, more or less. Like, again, it starts in March and runs for the full year, so they're doing that also. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, first, in February, Suji. She would appear in the show My Love from the Star. She was in one episode. That's it. Then, in May, Suji, this is the actual film, Suji got announced as the starring role in the then upcoming film, The Sound of the Flower. So if you're wondering what she's doing for most of the year, because it's actually a pretty Suji light year, she was filming a movie. Moving into June, we have some Gia lore, where Gia starred in the show 1.5 Summer. It's a Chinese show. It aired from June to July. And also, she plays an accountant. Relatable behavior. I'm an accountant, for the people who don't know. My bachelor's degree is in accounting. And relatable behavior. We love to see it. July, we have Faye's official acting debut when she appeared in the show Temptations, and she took a page out of Suji's playbook and released an OST for it. August, we have our only Miss A lore. They were in a JYP Nation concert. They didn't have a solo concert. It was a JYP Nation concert in 2014. There were 3 shows. They were at all of them. That's it. Moving on, in September, Faye appeared in another Chinese show. It was called The Great Magician, and she won the show. Faye has a weirdly successful track record on, like, reality shows. I want that noted. Then, in December, we have a Suji thing. She did a collaboration single as part of the JYP Nation One Mic project. It was with Bernard Park. They remade JYP The Human song Farewell Under the Sun. It did fine. It peaked at number 40. Then that same month, more Suji lore. She appeared in the show Pinocchio. She was once again in a singular episode, but she was there. Yes, I skipped a few things, but in my defense, we're now done with 2014. Like, I powered through. There wasn't a lot to talk about, if we're being honest. Let's be real, like, not much happened, but we're done. We're heading back to the retrospective corner. Okay, welcome back. Now, 2014 is a fun year for me because I feel like it showcases a lot of what made Miss A unique in comparison to a lot of other groups at the time. And because I'm a psychopath, I love to compare groups that are like side by side. So we're going to take another group I've already done a history of for. We're going to compare Miss A and SHINee. Just like Miss A, SHINee had no 2014 comeback. SHINee as a group had no Korean album come out in 2014, okay? The difference is SHINee was still busy in 2014. We saw a quasi-subunit, whatever way you want to call Two Heart. We saw a solo debut. We had Japanese stuff. We had a tour. Like, SHINee was still doing things in 2014, whereas Miss A seems like, well, for starters, Miss A never had, like, a tour. They never had a Japanese debut. We will get to the Miss A solos, but, like, they're in a while. Miss A doesn't have subunits. Miss A really just seemed like they were there for the group promotions, and that's kind of it. And I just find that interesting. But either way, that's pretty much all we got for 2014. Let's go into the final real year of Miss A. All right, we made it to 2015. This is crucial because this is where I enter the picture. Yes, I am that important. I am that crucial. I entered the picture in 2015. I got to K-pop in 2015. This is now first-hand-ish lore. Downside, this is also the final year of, like, Miss A being Miss A, and they didn't really start off doing much, so we're going to fast forward to March when they would release their final album. Okay, March 30th, we hit Colors era. Colors is Miss A's third mini album. It was led by the iconic title track, Only You, and just all around a moment. Let's get album sales out of the way first. It was no massive success, obviously. It sold around 12,000 copies. It peaked at number 3. By Miss A standards, it did just about as well as all their other albums did. The lead single, though, very different story. This was no standard Miss A hit. This was a massive Miss A hit. It became their first #1 song on both the Gaon and Melon charts in years. It spent 2 weeks at #1 on both. And that is in spite of heavy competition because this album came out right around the same time as Call Me Baby by EXO. EXO hit number 2, Miss A hit number 1. They outsold Call Me Baby. And when I tell you, this song did numbers, okay? In addition to its 2 weeks at #1, it spent 5 months on the charts. It tied Bad Girl, Good Girl, which was up until this point their longest charting song. It charted for as long as Bad Girl, Good Girl, okay? And on top of that, it made it to number 11 on the year-end Gaon charts. The music video also did numbers on YouTube, okay? It is the most viewed Miss A music video. It has over 100 million views. It is also, for the record, like, I know 100 million views, tons of music videos get 100 million views. 2015, that was not the case. This was the 10th most viewed music video of 2015. I feel like I really need to expand on this number because I constantly will have, like, be talking to people and they'll be like, that's not that bad. Like, what do you mean? Like, 100 million views? Everyone gets 100 million views. Here's the context, okay? There were 2 girl group music videos that got more views than Miss A's did in 2015, okay? The first one was Crazy by 4 Minute. The second one was Party by Girls' Generation. All the other girl group music videos, less views than this one did. Also, you know what was the 11th most viewed music video in 2015? Dope by BTS. I think we can constitute this as numbers. The one area where the song is a bit of a disappointment is music shows. This song got no music show wins at all, although to be fair, as previously mentioned, this came out right around the same time as Call Me Baby. Call Me Baby won literally every music show under the sun. So, like, it makes sense that it didn't win, but it is still disappointing. But if you ask me, this success was so deserved, okay? Like, this song is so good. I'm not going to say it's Miss A's best title. I've already said my favorite Miss A title is Hush. But this is a close second, okay? Like, I love this song so much. This is pop's music at its finest. Like, this is a phenomenal god tier song, and it is a song everyone should know. Also, jumping back to YouTube for a second, the title track actually was not the only song that blew up on that website. Suji, this is Suji. Suji did a fan cam, well, not did a fan cam. She performed the song Love Song on M Countdown, and her fan cam went viral, okay? It currently has more than 30 million views. I need you to understand, okay? Even in the modern day, this is still one of the most viewed fan cams on YouTube, and most of the ones ahead of it are like Bangtan and Blackpink. Like, this video did numbers. In summary, ignoring the fact that this song came out 8 years ago, and we are well in the future, this comeback looked like Miss A was reclaiming past heights. They looked like they were about to reconquer the world, and we should have been excited for it. Unfortunately, obviously, like, we know the future. We know this was their last comeback. They never came back after this. but it is interesting to note that their last comeback was so successful. Unfortunately, as previously mentioned, this was the end of Miss A. Miss A doesn't really have any group activities following promotions for Color. We have officially reached the end of an era. The end of an era. We have reached the end of an era. But like, as far as final singles go, I'm of the opinion this is the best. Also, while I'm on the topic of colors, I don't expect this video to do crazy numbers, but on the off chance one of you watching has a copy of this album Colors and wants to sell it to me for a reasonable amount of money, please let me know. I have been dying to get a copy of this album for years, and I don't want to spend $50 on one. So if you're willing to sell it to me for like $25, I'll pay for shipping, I don't care, but like $25, please let me know. Like, I want a copy of this album so damn bad. After promotions of Color though, Miss A did kind of just disappear. The only real thing worth mentioning for the rest of 2015 is that Suji's movie that she was filming back in 2014 came out in November. That's it. That's it for 2015. So let's go do our retrospective. Okay, hi. So 2015 is a complicated year because let's start with the obvious. Miss A put out their biggest hit in a hot minute in 2015. Okay, like Only You is probably, in terms of like success, their third biggest single. The only ones that I think you could argue were as big are obviously Bad Girl, Good Girl, and then Goodbye Baby in 2011. In other words, their two biggest hits, I would argue these three, like Only You, Bad Girl, Good Girl, and Goodbye Baby, are their holy trinity of hits. But that's what makes 2015 so interesting to me. Like, Miss A really and truly did go out on top. Like, they put out one of the most successful final singles, and I would argue probably the most successful final single for a group, and then they just disappeared. And I think it's so interesting that JYP clearly saw the success that Only You had and chose not to capitalize on it. They easily could have given Miss A a 2016 comeback, and they chose not to. Yes, an obvious answer is the fact that JYP sucks. JYP sucks at promoting multiple girl groups at once. I'll never understand it, but it is true. Like, he's terrible at it. And while yes, the immediate success that Twice saw, like Twice was a massive within hours of their debut, basically. Like, Twice debuted, immediately became a top girl group, and JYP, I could argue, rightfully shifted the attention to Twice, because Twice was busy in 2016, and then they got really busy in 2017, but that's not really an excuse. Like, Wonder Girls had a comeback in 2016. I just don't know why MSA didn't. I have theories that we're not going to get into, but I guess some things just aren't meant to be. Anyway, I have nothing else for this retrospective. We're going to go finish, like, the MSA timeline, because, again, they don't disband until 2017, but we have solo promotions to do. They're mostly for Suji. I'm not even going to lie. Like, they are mostly for Suji. They're not all for her, but she is the vast majority. So let's go do those. Okay, here's the thing with 2016. And also 2017, if we're being honest. Miss A doesn't disband officially until 2017, so this video is going to run through their history until 2017. But not a lot happens. There's not really much to discuss, so we're going to do what we did with my history of 21. I'm going to cover 2016 and 2017 in one chunk, and then we're going to do one last retrospective at the end. Sound good? Great. So, we start off 2016 on a really strong note. Suji collaborates with Baekhyun from EXO. They released Dream. This song did insanely well. Like, of all the Suji singles, this is by far the most successful, okay? For starters, it topped both the Melon and Gaon charts. Spent 3 weeks at #1 on the Gaon charts, 2 weeks at #1 on the Melon charts, and also earned 5 music show wins, meaning, in the grand scheme of the Miss A cinematic universe, this is tied for the most awarded song. Additionally, its album, there's an album for the single, it came out on the 14th, it came out a week later, it went #1. It topped the album charts, probably because Baekhyun's a part of it, EXO, Laura, and all. But this album going #1 means it is the only #1 album in the Miss A cinematic universe. But to summarize, Dream did numbers, okay? Like, it did numbers. It is also, fun fact while we're here, because I'm not going to have a better chance to discuss this, fun fact, do you know Dream is the song by a male artist from SM Entertainment with the most weeks at #1 on the Melon chart since, like, 2000? Can we talk about how wild that is? Not the Gaon charts. The Gaon charts have different numbers. The Melon charts, EXO male artists do not top the Melon charts. This song, with its 2 weeks at #1, has more weeks at #1 than any other male SM song going back 20 plus years. That's wild to me, but this video is not about EXO, so I'm done talking about it. Jumping ahead to May, Jia would become the first member of Miss A to leave the group. She departed in May of 2016, and just like when I always do these videos, when a member leaves, that's where their story ends for me. We're gonna come back to Jia. I'm doing a Where Are They Now section, so like we'll be back to her. But for the rest of this video, I'm not really gonna talk about what she's been up to. After that, we have another Suji drama. She was in the show Uncontrollably Fond. As with all her dramas, I didn't watch it. Can you imagine if I watched every Suji drama for this video? I would be here for 8 years, okay? Like, absolutely not. But I know she's in it, so there's that. July, we have our first solo debut, and it is not a Suji debut. It is not a Suji solo debut. The first solo debut for Miss A was Faye. She put out the single Fantasy. It is a fine song, but there's a lot of lore about Korea and China that I am not qualified to discuss, so I will simply say the song is fine and move on. Then in August, we actually have more non-Suji lore. We have Min lore. Min, she's way over here. Min would join Jokwon from 2AM and Hyoyeon from Girls' Generation. They put out the SM Station single, Born to Be Wild. Now this song, kind of wild, like kind of nuts. I used to actually really like it. It's true, I've evolved as a human since then. This song is no longer for me, but it is definitely wild. We can agree that it is a wild song, but it doesn't matter. Like, I have nothing to really say about it, and that's fine because it made like no charting impact whatsoever. As we move into 2017, we begin with another solo album. This time it is a Suji solo album. It's time for Suji's solo debut. I would say who else would it be, but I'm still to this day shocked she wasn't first because I really thought she would be. Anyway, on January 17th, my birthday, I'm so crucial to this story, guys, but on my birthday, Suji released the single Pretend as a pre-release for her album Yes, No, Maybe. No, that's the single. The title track of the album was Yes, No, Maybe. The album is called Yes, No. And it's a bop. Now, between the singles, between Yes, No, Maybe and Pretend, in spite of Yes, No, Maybe being a bop, Pretend was the bigger hit. It peaked at #2 on the Gaon charts, and it topped real-time charts. Like, it topped all the real-time charts when it came out, as well as earning 2 wins on Music Bank, making it the final music show winning song in the Miss A cinematic universe. Moving on. February, we have some Min lore. Min appeared in the musical version of the show Boys Over Flowers, which is fun. Let me explain to you why this is lore, okay? Suji, that's Suji. Suji dated the actor Lee Min-oh, okay? Min-oh was starring in the TV version of Boys Over Flowers. It's all connected. I could make a mind map. Speaking of Suji, Suji's here not because she dated Lee Min-oh. She's here because she appeared in another drama. She appeared in the drama While You Were Sleeping, which is one of the creepiest names for a drama I've ever heard. Who named this? Who named you? Are they okay? I'm sure it would make more sense if I watched the show. Like, I'm sure it's not actually that creepy. I always picture it as like someone's watching you while you're sleeping, but I don't know. Either way, Suji put out 2 OSTs for this drama, so good for her. However, this is where things go downhill fast. The end times are upon us. Okay, in November of 2017, Min's departure for Miss A was officially announced, and the following month in December, JYP Entertainment would officially announce that Miss A had disbanded. And with that, we've covered the history of Miss A. We did it all, but we're not done yet. It is retrospective time. I promise you get one more retrospective, and there we go. Okay, last retrospective, let's go. Here's the thing, if you ask me, about late stage Miss A. I just think it's fascinating that they're similar to 21 in actually a lot of ways I've noticed, but primarily in the sense that their end is entirely their company's fault. Like, there's no one to blame. There's not that one member that you can point to and be like, see, like, it's Suji's fault because she was too busy being a solo promotions and Miss A couldn't come back. No. JYP was able to make the time for comebacks around Suji. There's no one to blame but JYP. Like, Miss A easily could have had a comeback in 2016 before Jia left, and they could have had a comeback in 2017 if they wanted to. It would have been weird to do it as 3, but that was still an option for them. I will admit, this is another one of those groups, like with 21, where we all kind of saw the disbandment announcement coming. Like, even I saw it coming, and I wasn't even that big of a Miss A stan in 2017 anymore. Like, I had a brief stint for them in 2015, but that's really it. But even by 2017, like, we all knew, especially once Min left, like in November, we all saw it coming, and no one was shocked. This wasn't one of those disbandment announcements like Sistar, where, like, we were all surprised, we were taken aback. No. Everyone knew Miss A was over really when Gia left, but definitely when Min left. Now, I could sit here, I could theorize all day long about why Miss A broke up. And I've done that with me, myself, and I. Like, I do think it's interesting, but I don't want this video to get too out of hand, and I feel like it kind of already has. So I'm just gonna blame Park Jin-young, because I hate that man. He's the fucking worst, and it's all his fault. Anyway, as promised, because it's been several years since 2017, we're gonna go catch up with the members. We're gonna see what they've been up to and how they're doing in a post-Miss A world. Hi, welcome to the Where Are They Now section. Okay, here's the thing. I thought this would be fun, so we're gonna do it, but we're gonna go in image order this time. Like, normally I would go in age order, but it makes more sense to go in image order, because, like, Faye's all the way over here, then we'd have to jump. We're just gonna go in image order, and yes, I did also just now realize this is where the Gia image that I used in my Gia slide is from. I didn't realize they just kind of cut her, like, right there. I would have picked a different picture, but I already filmed it, and I don't feel like changing it. Anyway, speaking of Gia, she's right here. So she gets to be the first one we're talking about. What have you been up to, Gia? Gia has actually been thriving in China. Fun fact, she's been mostly focusing on her music, and she had some top 10s in China. Like, she had some hit singles in China, and we're very happy for her. Also, I think this is adorable. Gia and Faye, they went on a show together. They went on the show Sisters Who Make Waves together, and I think that is so cute. I didn't watch the show. This video took me long enough to make, but I think that's so cute. Next up, we have Min. Min's actually not been that busy, if we're being honest. Like, in the scheme of all the members, Min's been pretty low-key. She's been pretty AWOL for the most part. I think the biggest thing she did was when she made her Broadway debut with the musical K-pop, a musical about K-pop. Who would have thought? That's where the Broadway stuff came from in her slide. She was in a musical. But aside from that, she hasn't really been doing much. Next is Faye. Faye, like Gia, went back to China. She just went to China, and she's been thriving there. She put out some singles, but it seems like her main focus now has been more acting and, like, hosting and stuff. She basically became Suji of China, admittedly to a lesser degree of success. But even so, I've watched some interviews with her because I actually really liked Faye during my brief stint as a Miss A stan, and she seems really happy. So good for her. The sun is so damn bright, but I'm almost done. Anyway, Suji. Last member is Suji. Suji has basically just been the same as always. Like, post-Miss A Suji is just the same as Miss A Suji, just without the Miss A aspect of her life. She did put out another solo album, and I think like a year ago put out another single, but most of her time has been spent acting. She has become a hugely successful actress. Obviously, she was popular before, she was winning awards before, but she has been in her acting bag ever since Miss A broke up, and frankly, she seems to be thriving. Anyway, that covers the Where Are They Now section, and I, for one, would like to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you really like this. I've never done a video like this with a slideshow and shit, so I hope it, like, comes out well. I don't know how it's gonna go. Obviously, I'm using this because how long have I been filming? I've been filming for 2 hours, and that's just this sections. So, like, I'm using this footage, but I hope you liked it. I hope it turned out well. I have so many more of these I want to do. Like, I was making more notes for another history of last night, and I had visions for this slideshow. Okay, like, it's gonna be fun. I hope you liked it, and if you did, feel free to like and subscribe. Or don't. I'll be okay either way. Also, comment whatever you want in the comment section. Comment, I'm so serious about this, I'm not even joking. Comment if you have a copy of Colors you're willing to sell me. I'm so dead serious about this. I'll pay like 30 bucks for it, I'm not joking. But either way, comment what you want. You can also go in the description. I will put down there a playlist that has all my other history apps, so you can check them out if you so choose. They will not be slideshow format. They will just be me sitting in a chair. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Bye!